let's say somebody quit smoking, right? And they tell you like, oh dude, I'm 10 days, haven't smoked for 10 days, you know, haven't drank for 3 days, all right? And then he says, well, why are you counting, right? Are you a non-smoker? Have you really quit? Or are you just abstaining because you still identify with the habit, you know? So what I'm trying to get at is there's a certain idea of practice without striving, right? Getting into a routine, getting into a continuous loop of effort and consistency, as well as reaping the rewards from it, but not having that feel like a grind, because that's simply what you do. You know, you wouldn't look at a, I mean, let's say alternate universe where a damn, you know, blue whale or a freaking bluefin tuna could speak, right? They're not going to say, oh my God, I got to swim today. Oh, I got to freaking swim around today. Oh my God. No chance. That's what they do. You know, it's not a question of if or if it's going to be difficult. It's just what they do, you know? So it's almost kind of a, just breaking past a certain barrier where you haven't locked in yet, but you have this belief that you know you can do it, and that's what you're going to do, such that it's not even an if. It's not a question of if you're going to do it. It's only a question of when, you know? And in the beginning, that might sound a little delusional, right? I mean, there's guys where they're, oh, dude, I'm locking in this year. 2026, that's my year. Yo, summer of 2025 is gonna be a movie, bro. It's gonna be nuts. I'm gonna make this shit happen. I mean, I'm certainly not one to put anybody down, but I mean, let's be realistic here. How many times do you hear somebody say that and you believe them 100%? Not often. Not often, if ever, because there's no action to back up that statement. You know, it's simply a wish at that point. You know, you're putting out in the world, I want to make this shit happen, right? Where's the action? You know, so that's where I kind of say, you know, don't even freak about trying to, you know, tell anybody what you're going to do, posting about what you're going to do. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've, because I'm tuned in, right? I've been, well, I say tuned in, I really mean I'm a freaking phone addict, and I'm constantly scrolling for like a dopamine rush. But with the TikTok and everything, I mean, for the last really ever since it kind of blew up, I mean, I've been watching all sorts of fitness characters, so I see them, and I see these same posts, dude, I'm gonna make this shit happen, right? Just wait for it. And then, you know, didn't see the guy for years after that, right? So I guess what I'm getting at is there's a lot of talk, right? And it's completely up to you as an individual, if you're doing the talking, to back it up with the walk itself. And that's where I always tend to be a little more, I guess you could kind of say, reclusive with my goals, because I'm not really seeking any external validation to motivate me, right? Like, I'm not gonna, I don't know how to exactly describe it apart from that, but it's like I don't need to tell anybody what I'm gonna do, right? Because I know in my freaking mind, and I can kind of, I don't want to say like foresee the future, but I know barring any extreme events, I'm gonna keep after it like nothing's stopping me, right? So it's kind of a situation where sometimes I think, you know, if you have to talk about how hard you're gonna go and how much you're gonna lock in, and, you know, it's like, oh, you know, dieting, man. You know, if you have to really put out into the world just how hard you're gonna go and how much effort you're putting into it, you know, it makes me kind of question, are you just trying to validate that, not only to anybody else looking at you, but also like to yourself deep down, you know? Because well, you know, if you really want people to think you're gonna do something, and then in your, you know, in your actual subconscious mind, maybe you don't even know it for real, it's real deep in there, if you might know kind of at your core you're not really gonna do it, or maybe you don't know, and you know, your patterns and your actions just don't represent it, then obviously you're going to try to convince anybody as much as possible, and just, you know, hype yourself up like that, which I'm not going to dog on anybody for doing that, but I mean, there's a certain coolness factor to the grinding in silence meme. But if you say you're grinding in silence, then you're no longer grinding in silence, you see? So it's it's kind of like how some things go unspoken, or go without saying, right? So that's where that's what that barrier I'm talking about was. You've got a couple of months before anything is really going to change if you get into the gym, or if you get into a certain like dieting phase, be it bulking up or cutting down, and it takes a while. I mean, I think the coolest thing about the gym as like a just kind of life lesson aspect, isn't just going hard and the benefits that you get from being more physically active, but just the fact that it's hard. Like if you really push it, working out is pretty hard. Now it's fun because it's hard, but it doesn't change the fact that it's still a lot of effort, and you don't really get the reward, at least in terms of like a physical change, for months down the line. So it's never about where you are at any given current moment. It's all about where you're headed in the future. And I think that's a really good outlook to have just in general, because so many people are at so many different levels of advancement, just freaking, societally, just, in any given aspect of life, right? People are all the way at the top and all the way at the bottom, and you're somewhere right in the freaking middle. So, comparison's the thief of joy. But if you're on track, if you're going to lock in and you don't have to tell anybody because you know that your actions are going to speak for you, then it's not a question of looking at somebody and thinking, oh my gosh, that guy's so much bigger than me. That guy's been lifting for so much longer than me. He can do this much weight. He can do this much whatever. I mean, I've never really thought that way. Even as a beginner, even as like a scrappy 160 pounder, I never looked at anybody who I looked up to with, I guess, maybe that sense of like jealousy of like, holy crap, they're so much further ahead than I am. How am I ever gonna? It's it is always like just wait for it. They've been doing it for longer. That's the explanation, right? That's like if you're in freaking 5th grade and you're complaining that you can't figure out the math of a college student. They've just been doing it for longer. So if you're on track and you've got that trajectory towards what you're aiming for, it's simply a waiting game. That's the best part about working out, I feel, is it's not an if, I said if, but diet-wise, training-wise, recovery-wise, you've got a consistent routine, and the scale is changing, your strength is changing, your size is changing, your level of leanness is changing, all sorts of whatever vectors of training benefits you're aiming for. If they're on track towards what your goals are, then, it doesn't take too much to get into that state. And then it's not, oh man, I wonder if I'll ever be able to reach this goal I'm aiming for. It's simply, all right, how long is it going to take for me to get there?